Hi everybody, Emily here for Hip Kit Club. This week for the weekly challenge we're playing along with the sketch that was designed by Jana McCarthy, and it's a fabulous sketch, very dynamic, very modern, and I loved working with it. I decided to play a lot with the pattern papers, so I created a background with that kind of checked shirt kind of plaid pattern, and on top of it I mounted some of that navy blue cardstock. That navy blue cardstock repeated very nicely the darker lines of the pattern paper. I cut it slightly smaller than my pattern paper, and then I ruffled all the edges and distressed all the edges to give it a bit more texture, a bit more volume and a bit more interest. When I came around to cut off the plaided pattern paper, I decided to cut it off quite large when you compare it to the cardstock. And the reason for that is because I wanted to really make sure there would be pattern paper where the edges are the most ruffled back in. So even though the smaller edges are quite close to the edge, I really wanted to make sure that it would be fully covered underneath. I didn't want to waste my pattern paper, but also I didn't want to have to roll it back out for my cardstock. I wanted to really keep that volume. I then cut out a strip of that pink paper and same again, distressed the edges with my pair of scissors and rolled some little bit here and there. Still to go alongside the idea of the sketch, I cut off a little strip of that burgundy paper. You can see that there was a little strip that was pulled out on my cardstock, and this is where I had tried to put some washi tapes and found out that it didn't quite work, so I replaced it with a strip of paper of that in that burgundy. What I like to do when I work with a sketch or even with a lift, in order to still get my style through, usually I observe it quite closely. So I'll sit down, I'll look at the sketch, I'll look at the main element, I'll look at what the visual ID is in general, and then I'll just put it away. I don't work with it just in front of me. I tend to grasp the main ID. So like for here in that sketch, for me the main ID was those strips of papers that were going down on the right hand side of my page, and it was also the little elements that were popping here and there. So there were circles and there were stars. I also remember having a little bit of mixed media in the background of the sketch, so as well as two photographs, and this is where I look at the idea, have a general composition ID, but I will not copy it exactly as far as the element goes. I just take the general ID, I engrave it in my brain, and then I put it away so that it allows me and it creatively to really make the sketch my own and really make it work for my own personal style of scrapbooking. So this is exactly where I come from when I explain about taking elements. The sketch itself had two photographs, but I didn't have two photographs that would work together of that particular moment. The two photographs I had were way too similar, and I didn't want to use them together. I wanted to just have this one, and I was stubborn about it. So what I did is I used the frame underneath my photo to then still add the idea of the two photographs, the composition of it visually. So visually you can recognize the sketch even though I just have that one photo. And this is where you can replace elements. If you just let yourself read, instead of looking, for example, at this is an embellishment, this is a photograph, this is that, look at it generally as either a shape, or either a placement, or either a different element. And you could have had the whole background as a giant photograph, and then that strip just being embellishment. It's just trying to adapt it to work with what you have, the story you want to tell, but still make it recognizable. It's just a starting point, so you just observe it and then you walk away. This is what I do anyway, and this is what worked for me. So I have been doing a bit of fussy cutting, and I'm now layering a few of the chipboard. I'm trying to find the general placement of all my embellishment, and I am layering at the bottom right hand corner some chipboard flowers and some text, and I'm also fussy cutting some leaves and different layer elements that I am layering around my layout. I'm so totally in love with that layer fox, and I really wanted to use it. So I'm kind of stubbornly placing things underneath, and I keep coming back to placing that layer fox on top of it, and then I just committed and glued it down. I added a bit of double-sided sticky foam pads where obviously the fox is not directly on the cardstock, because we're resting most of the fox onto the frame, which is, by being cardstock, is 3D, so you need those foams underneath so that it doesn't fall off or flap back or bend down. I'm then layering a few details around here and there. I've fussy cut a few more flowers and a few more leaves, and I'm just playing with the general elements. I have also reached a point where I want to add some of the little chipboard hearts to sprinkle in some ways around the layout. You'll see later that when I finished adding all the hearts, it just looked a little bit randomly sprinkled, and this is where at a later stage you'll see where we make it all come together. I'm adding a few more flowers. I'm just really working on that clustering. I don't want to stop at a stage that is too easy to stop at, and I really want to reach a point where I'm happy with the finished look of my layout. Here I am protecting my photograph because I want to sprinkle around some white acrylic paint that I have diluted with water. So I just splash it around, put a few splatters. I make sure that some of the flowers were caught as well in that splatter. It's a look I've seen quite a lot around and that I've been enjoying, and I quite like it. So it's something I wanted to keep reproducing. And by adding all those splatters, all of a sudden, all those little hearts that are sprinkled around the page, it really makes it all come together, and it all make it fits quite nicely together, and I really enjoy that look. I'm adding a little bit of subtle touches and something very refined with those tiny branches that I'm fussy cutting, and those tiny branches really add a refined look to the clustering and to all the little details. As well as I'm finishing off my layout with my hand-stamped journaling, which I'm speeding you through. And there we go. I am quite happy with this layout. Well, I'm more than quite happy. I love this layout. I love this autumnal feel. I love the photographs that I've recorded on it. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to create. I hope you enjoyed the process. Please don't hesitate to comment on the video, and I'll make sure to comment back or to answer any question you may have. Thank you very much for watching. Bye!